everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Jedi Way. I am the outlaw John Rocha, aka Rocha Fett, here joined today because Laura Kelly is still traveling all the world. Joined today with our special guest, Kevin Smets, back on the show. Good to see you, Kevin. Schmoedown legend, Star Wars aficionado, and a relatively new San Diegan. So, how are you, Kevin Smets?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a reborn San Diegan because I lived here. I went to school down here, so it was pretty. One of the only benefits, I guess, of a pandemic was my industry kind of moved towards streaming, so like working from home. So even as an editor, so I was like, all right, no brainer. Let's go back down to San Diego. So glad to be here, closer to you now, buddy. Talk some Star Wars.
We were just talking about possibly hitting a Padres game together, so future stuff for sure. But we got a lot to get into here today on this show, so I'm very thankful that Kevin had some time this afternoon to hang out with us and talk about this stuff. The Mandalorian, this episode, man, chapter 23, The Spies. Woo! This is the one you've been waiting for. This is the one you've been building to. It almost felt reminiscent of what we'd gotten used to in Game of Thrones, that penultimate episode that drops the hammer and brings everything together. And certainly we're going to see what the finale is going to bring us next week. And we're going to jump into all of it and jump into Star Wars Celebration news. Thanks to everybody who's joining us live. If you're joining us live for the first time, this is a Star Wars show here on the Outlaw Nation channel. Make sure you hit a like on this video, share it on your social media, and subscribe to the channel down below as well. Would love it to get to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year so I can afford some Beskar armor myself. But the other part we have to go on today, since we're live, the Streamlabs and Super Chats are open. So send in your questions, send in your thoughts and comments as we go through these topics today. The review first, taking a break, then jumping into Star Wars Celebration. So Kevin, got to get your thoughts. Overall, what an episode. 52 minutes of old school Star Wars glory that touched upon the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, and everything in between in terms of what was alluded to. So what did you think about this episode overall?
I love any episode that has a good speech. You know, you got a good rousing speech ready to take Mandalore, a good trap. I mean, obviously, if you're watching this, you've seen the episode. So
yes, and I would hope so.
Good sacrificial death. This is great. I saw some things. I have some theories. Like, I'm sure we'll get into it. But all in all, I liked it. I actually, funny enough, like when I'm on the show Scoundrels, my show Scoundrels Inc., which you can still watch. It's right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice I was talking about I never liked filler episodes. And like last week felt like on Mandalorian felt a little bit of a filler episode, but I was one of the few that actually really liked it. Like,
really? Okay.
Yeah, which is weird because on any Bad Batch episode filler, I tore it down. Like I'm never a fan of the filler episodes.
Right.
But I like last week's, but a lot of people kind of turned on the Mandalorian last week, right? And so now they're all like back on board. So it's funny how fandom can kind of get, like, you get disappointed by something and like, oh, this season's disappointment, but you got 2 episodes, man. If you could stick the landing on this season, like, I think it'll really make a lot of people happy. I know I'm happy. It was a fantastic episode. A lot of cool little cameos too, I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, we will. And as is typical of Star Wars fandom, it's like, see, this is the episode. All of you who've been bashing it, now you'll love it. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. Okay, you have to take everything as a whole. This may be an incredible episode. It doesn't mean that they didn't stumble along the way to get here. For some people, not everyone. And I think both opinions are valid. People can love the build up to this episode. People can have issues with the build up to this episode. Both opinions are okay, and both opinions are okay to have, in my opinion. I did not like last week's episode for the most part, but I appreciate that Kevin did. I know my fellow geek buddy Michael Vogel liked it. So it's
question. Did you like the Clone Wars show a lot?
I enjoyed the Clone Wars show. So
that's how I felt. It felt like a live action Clone Wars, but I could see why some people didn't like it because it was kind of cartoony at points. It's like,
Yeah, I think with Mandalorian, it's always interesting because they're old school Star Wars with a lot of their episodes, but they do have these kind of funnier, weirder, cartoonish aspects of them all that occasionally pop up, combined with some of the darker, dare I say this, Andorian type of aspects to that as well. So it's an interesting line they walk every time when they do a season of The Mandalorian. But like Kevin, I loved this episode. Everyone was hyping it up last night, and I got up this morning. I was like, okay, I haven't seen any spoilers, but I know everyone's crowing about it. Laura was talking about it, Jedi Way co-host from London, because apparently they screened the episode in London during Star Wars Celebration.
She got to see that with a crowd. Like, can you imagine that?
Oh, dude. I mean, Dude, Kevin, when the Praetorian Guard show up, I can't even imagine what that crowd must have been like in that
she'll
situation.
fill everyone in, I'm sure, next week.
Exactly. Yes, you will. But yeah, for me, enjoyed it so much more than I had in the previous stuff. It's great to see everything come together. Still have questions about Bo-Katan and the armor. Still have some questions about how that's all going to go down. Is she going to be the one to unite him? Is she not? We've seen Bo-Katan walk down this road before where she wants to run things. It hasn't worked out for her, which gets referenced in the show as well. Moff Gideon finally coming back in a good dose of Giancarlo Esposito, and then getting some more here from this council, this really interesting council. What are we diving into with this council? What's it all going to lead to? So, plus we get IG-12 now, not IG-11, IG-12 with young little Grogu doing the controls there. So a lot to get into.
Yes.
It's what he was saying about the episode as well. So yeah, I'm going to get to all of that here. So let's start it off here, Kevin. So yeah, we open with Elia Kane having this conversation with Giancarlo Esposito. We got this kind of Blade Runner-esque vibe. Clearly he's in charge of things. There's a shadow council that he walks into because Elia Kane has told him about the Mandalorians, that the Mandalorians have come together here and they might be ready to take over Mandalore. Goes into the Shadow Council and he talks to all of these people here. Captain Paleon, who a lot of people may not know, who is the Grand Admiral Thrawn's right-hand man from Heir to the Empire, and through that whole trilogy was his right-hand man. He is there. We also see a number of these other people lined up here to be a part of this. Brendol Hux, who is, of course, Hux's dad. He is involved in this as well, and he's also a first time in live action person there. And the number of other people, we hear that they're all warlords that essentially holding their certain areas, but they don't want to do too much because they need the New Republic to believe that there are a bunch of just people out there ragtagging all around, not actually united to bring back the Empire. And we hear about Thrawn, and that Thrawn's delayed and Thrawn should be coming, and Gideon's not convinced about it. And then Gideon is the one that proposes himself to be maybe in charge for now until Thrawn shows up, asks for some protection because of the Mandalorians, and that's how we end this. So what do you think about how this opening scene, these opening few scenes rather, laid out the idea of the Mandalorians, laid out the threat that they are to this burgeoning new empire that's going to become the First Order, of course. What do you think about all this and the Shadow Council?
Well, listen, I love whenever they talk about like how the fear of the Mandalorians and how they can put a galaxy on the brink, and even these bad guys, this Shadow Council, is worried about it. Like, I mean, coming from KOTOR, there's Revan's mask from a Mandalorian. Nice. And even back then, like, they were able to take over the galaxy like in one fell swoop. Like literally on a weekend, they attacked in like 5 different sectors, took over everything. So they have that history. So I love that they're like, we got to like take them out now, because right now, just like they say, like when they're fractured, they're not as strong. Like they got to be together. It's like in the Planet of the Apes, like with the sticks, it's like apes together, strong, like hard to break. But I want to know what Laura thought in that screening too, because in that first, I mean, the second you hear Paleon's name, like like you said, he's an icon from the little and legends and stuff like that. So to hear his name, and then Brian Gleason is Donald Gleason's brother. He played Hux. Yeah. So Daddy Hux, whatever his name is, Brendol Hux. So that's cool. Like keeping it in the family. So I like that. And you could hear a little of his voice. That's a really bad impersonation of it. But yeah, the Shadow Council scene was great. I loved how they were really kind of seeding what was to happen later. Like I think like I wasn't ready for I didn't realize that it was going to be such a trap. So I think I would have been one of the dumbfounded Mandalorians, would have walked right into it. I guess I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens with Star Wars, right? They keep you a little like caught up in the hero aspect of it all and the joy of that and the strength of all of that. And then boom, you walk right into a trap because you were too busy caught up in that stuff. Yeah, I like the intro. Love the Blade Runner-esque vibes that you got here for that, which a lot of people spoke about in their reviews there in that alleyway. We've seen Blade Runner-esque influences through a lot of the newer Star Wars shows. So seeing it pop up here is no surprise, but Elia clearly someone they're going to come back to at some point down the road, maybe in the next episode in the finale, with some connection here to Pershing and a connection to the clone stuff. We hear about Project Necromancer, which of course is like the initial stages of what's going to bring back Palpatine. We see the tubes. I mean, it's almost like Filoni yet again with Favreau is having to repair people's issues with a trilogy just like he did in Clone Wars with the prequel trilogy. He's doing it yet again here with the sequel trilogy. So, I mean, Dave Filoni, great cleanup hitter. That's what he is. Great cleanup hitter.
What a great take. I thought about that too. Like, because, you know, when Revenge of the Sith came out, it was like war. And you're like, good, we're going to see the Clone Wars. And then it was the final battle of the Clone Wars in the opening, like 10 minutes. Basically. So like when he remedied that, but now you have this full like series of Clone Wars. And if you ever done, I've done like from start to finish, like watching chronological order, by the time you get to that opening of Revenge of the Sith, if you've binged Clone Wars before it, you feel exhausted too. And you feel that level of like, let's get Grievous already. Right. So it's a very interesting way to watch it. So it's interesting that like they're connecting the dots, right? They're getting from like point A to point B, and how it's just not all of a sudden somehow Palpatine returns. So Palpatine, by the way, I mispronounce Palpatine, and I get crapped on all the time about it, but I don't know why I say Palpatine. Like
Ovaltine, probably. You're a big Christmas Story fan.
The commercial.
Well, the Shadow Council, for those of you who don't know, was first introduced in the Aftermath books. Those are Chuck Wendig's books, scheming to take back power from the New Republic, but they failed in their efforts. And this secret group was apparently dismantled after the Empire's defeat at the Battle of Jakku, which is that ship graveyard we see at the beginning of The Force Awakens. That's what that is all about. Now, Paleon, for those you don't know, as we said, he's the right-hand man for Thrawn. He rises in the non-canon stuff for now. He rises to become supreme commander of the Imperial Remnant and forges a fragile peace with the New Republic during the Yuuzhan Vong crisis. That's that situation there. And we hear Thrawn being mentioned. So, Kevin, before we move off this scene, do you think, because we saw Thrawn in the Ahsoka trailer, Mikkelsen playing him, do we think that he is going to show up in this finale as a way of launching us into the Ahsoka series?
I think so. Side note, it would have been cool to see Ray Sloan up there too.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. You know, Ray Sloan up there. Okay. Yes. Now, at first I'm like, well, I've seen the leaked trailer. You can always find it, by the way. If you ever want to see anything leaked during the conventions, I don't know. I'm just going to say, if you type the word Reddit and leak, you usually could find it. But so I saw the footage of Thrawn face to face, right? And I'm like, but they didn't release that, which is curious. They only had the back of his head. Why? I think if they weren't saving him maybe for an after credit scene or the very last scene of Mandalorian, we always know there's a big reveal. We had Luke in season 2.
Right.
So I feel like they're name dropping Thrawn. Yeah. So I think that could be the big reveal next week, and that would be sick, man. I cannot wait to see him. I can't wait for people who haven't been able to see what he looks like in live action from the leaked trailer. Like, he looks pretty dope, man. And it's the same guy who voiced him in Rebels. I love that synergy.
Yeah, it's going to be so good to see. A lot of people were like, I know Brian Ward did a whole video that he put up on Twitter, how he essentially took Mikkelsen's head and made it fit with the Thrawn shot.
Oh, he did. I got to see that.
Yeah, that we got in Ahsoka. So that was pretty cool to see. As for Brendel Hux, he is connected to the sequel trilogy, of course, through his son, General Hux there. But Brendel Hux also trained some of the most elite Imperial units during the height of the Empire, as well as in the years after the Battle of Endor, which we saw in Chuck Wendig's Aftermath books, and Phasma by Delilah S. Dawson. So that's the references there as well. And when everything finishes up and he loses at the hands of the New Republic, or they all lose at the hands of the New Republic, Hux journeys with what's left of the Empire to the unknown regions where they will organize as the First Order. So Hux is very essential to the beginnings of the First Order. So like I said, this whole episode touched on almost every angle of Star Wars, even the opening with the mind probe droid there.
Yeah, that was cool.
That is so reminiscent of Empire Strikes Back. So it's all there. And New Hope, of course, with Leia and the torture there. So yeah, all of that.
How amped do you get when you hear that, when that theme finally hits? Like, I love cold opens. A good cold open just pumps me up, because Breaking Bad was great with cold opens.
Oh yeah,
you would hear that, but you look at the riff or whatever,
right?
And this is great. Like when they just boom, now you're hearing the theme. You're like, you're about to get into it. Like they just set it up at Shadow Council. Now we're going to get into the meat of the story. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Night Owls and the Children of the Watch here. We got the Mandalorians, the namesake of the show here. Kevin, this is so interesting. We see them come together on Navarro. We see Grief Karga there. We see this uneasy confrontation, looking like the Jets and the Sharks out there on the planet there in Navarro. And then eventually it's the Armorer who kind of bangs her stuff and says, hey, these are the people. We all got to come together. Let's all hang out. Let's do a feast. And while they're having their feast, they're just talking about what they need to do about coming together, going to Mandalore. We see them taking off to Mandalore. Before they do, though, we get a present from Grief Karga to the Mandalorian, IG-12. It's so funny to see IG-11 become IG-12 without his memory unit. And Grogu it climbs inside of it and starts to use it and figures out how to do the yes, no buttons and starts to try to walk around, kind of like almost like taking his first steps like a baby. I'm sure you've experienced that in your life there, Kevin, with your child. So something to see elements of that. But then on the way to Mandalore, you see them kind of have the uneasy truce. They land. There's this massive ship that comes out of the distance, and that is the old Night Owl Guard, who is still pledged to Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan returns the favor. And of course, the main actor there, the black actor there, I forget his name, but he was in Top Gun Maverick. So great to see him popping up. The skinny kid is from Breaking Bad, and so seeing him pop up. So, but they're still connected. And then
I don't trust them.
I don't. Good point. And they get on the ship. They head over to this thing, or they head over to the forge rather, while the armorer takes the wounded back to the fleet. And we see this massive dinosaur creature shadow the ship, and they head down on below. But we have a fight on the ship between Axe and Paz Vizsla as well. So your thoughts on the Mandalorians coming together, the uneasy truce of the two sections, one claiming that they're the apostates, another one the other side claiming that they're a bunch of people stuck in the caveman days as Mandalorians, but coming together here and then almost getting killed by this crazy, huge dinosaur-like creature on Mandalore.
You gotta love it. Like, they really do their beasts well on this show. Something about when the look, I have kind of been iffy on the armor this whole time. My fellow scoundrel Frank thinks that she's not to be trusted. But what I came to conclusion on this episode was the armor was the one who like, oh, I'll take these guys to safety. Like,
yes,
okay, that seemed a little convenient. It was convenient, like with the whole Concordia thing, but she was like gone. I don't know why these Night Owls have been on that planet for so long. It probably made an uneasy truce with the Imperials, and Gideon, and I think that they sold them out, and that's why they all the injured. They kind of faked it. I always have crackpot theories, but that might be a crackpot theory. I do believe I don't trust the armor, and I don't trust those Night Owls. So that's going to be interesting. But I love the design of the ships, like with the pirate ships, like just great about Star Wars. You can make it like a space opera, you can make it like a space western. Now you got pirate movies, like it's not, there's so many different aspects and genres you can show in Star Wars. But yeah, something about that. I love the space chess scene and how they fought, and like that was great. And then like no, like that kind of
Grogu, yes, keeping them separate.
Payoff with Grogu on that ship, which I just thought it's good to have a voice. I think Grogu, we now know, understands everything is being said. Like he's not like an infant that's like just looking at you and don't know what you're saying. Like I believe he's fully cognizant. I just think his species they don't develop their voices like quite so soon. So it's kind of cool that he can be able. You'd think that they'd have like a Stephen Hawking type device. It's so futuristic. They have lightsabers and flying ships. You think that they'd have something where he could talk. But yeah, that was a great scene. Like I said, I'm a little iffy and not trusting of the Night Owls, but that big scene with the monster. I don't know. We don't have a confirmation of what that was, but that's great.
Yeah.
And everybody coming together. But you notice Bo-Katan still hasn't told anyone that she's seen the mythosaur.
No,
that's the trump card over, it's like paper, rock, scissors, it's like badass warrior, fine, but the paper covers it, which would be the dark saber, but the dark saber would be scissors with the rock to the dark saber would be riding the mythosaur. So I think she's trying to keep all of her ducks in a row to kind of keep control and keep everybody.
Yeah, it makes sense. I could totally see that. I don't even trust her. I've said this on the Geek Buddies reviews and on the Jedi Way reviews. Those of you who are watching, I have my suspicions about the armor as well, Kevin. It's a very convenient. It's like the toll booth operator dropping the coin right before Sonny gets killed. Whenever anyone runs away from a situation before all the shit goes down, you have to question things, right? So this is the thing. When she took off with the injury, and she's the one, no, I'll take him to the fleet or whatever, and communicates with the fleet. I thought for sure she was going to be revealed as a turncoat, because she either is a spy or a turncoat or wants full control of power and is kind of manipulated Bo-Katan, who we know through the history of Bo-Katan can be manipulated, her thirst for power, her thirst to lead sometimes overcomes her general reason or logic, and she gets taken advantage of. Unfortunately, that may be what's happening here. I've been, Michael and Shannon on the Geek Buddies have given me so much shit for being questioned of the armor, but I don't trust anybody that wants to take control of an entire planet and bring everybody together. And there's like, if you take your helmet off, you're no longer part of our crew. That seems like a weird thing to me. So,
and she volunteered. She was like, I'll join too. Like, you should stay with your people. Like, so it was very, we'll see. It's all, do you think that we're going to get all these reveals next week? Like,
yes.
You think they're going to wrap up this story?
Well, and I'll tell you this, and I'll tell you the reason why, because I think this, from what I'm understanding from, I have the other show, the Hot Mic, Jeff Snyder, we broke some kind of a couple of, or the last show, we're talking about how the Pedro Pascal stuff is kind of passing the smell test that he is most likely done with The Mandalorian, other than that movie that's coming that Filoni is going to be directing. And it may be that if they continue with The Mandalorian, it is going to be Thrawn, who's the overall big baddie for both Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and whatever else comes out of that. And that it will be Bo-Katan who ends up becoming the lead of The Mandalorian. And Pedro is kind of handing it over, because what we see on the ship as well is the Mandalorian calling her Lady Kryze and says, that's why I serve you. So he in no way wants to be a co-ruler of Mandalore at all. So that to me is Pedro kind of handing the reins of The Mandalorian over to KATEE Sackhoff. Y'all could think I'm crazy. Like Kevin says, crackpot theories. I got my own as well. But that's what it feels like to me that we're setting up. And I see all these Star Wars neckbeards being upset about the fact that you're having a man take the backseat to a woman. This is behind the scenes politics. And that's what this is all about. Pedro is kind of done with doing this. And he's going to hand it over to KATEE gladly. And I think he's going to walk away. Doesn't mean he won't occasionally pop up, but I don't see him being the lead of The Mandalorian anymore after this season.
Is this related to the Favreau kind of having a falling out with Kathleen Kennedy too? Like, one thing I did notice about this season is Grogu's not really integral, right? Like, I mean, maybe they'll do something where he saves everybody with the IG-12, but like he's been fun. But like it's like almost this could have been the season where it was like focused on taking back Mandalore while Grogu was away. Because isn't that the big contention? Is like Favreau's like, no, they're apart for a season. That'll mean even more when they come together for season 4. Yeah. So I'm wondering if they'll give Grogu a little more meat. I thought Grogu was going to do something with the doors at the end. Like, come on, man. It's time to start kicking ass. But I wonder if that's all connected. And Pedro is a Favreau guy, and he's like, look, I'll stick with you and I'll do the movie, but maybe how would they get rid of him though for another season? Like, would he leave? I
think he would just leave. If Grogu was in the right hands with the Mandalorian, depending on how things end next episode, he would just take off and go and do his own thing, possibly, and maybe show up occasionally in recurring roles. I don't know. It's very possible. So just throwing it out there, but I could be completely wrong. Again, I could be completely wrong, but that's what it feels like.
Well, hey, I like that. Hey, and also Kino Loy is Snoke, so don't worry. I have some crackpot theories of my own.
But look, I enjoy the ship thing. Was awesome. Seeing the Mandalorians coming together was cool. Seeing the fight between Axe and Paz was very cool, especially for what it leads to down the road for Paz. But seeing they're a warrior culture, and even Bo is asked, like, she's almost at Bo's like, you can't step in. Neither side can step in, because then everyone's going to jump in, and it's going to be a free for all. And it takes IG-12 there, aka Grogu, to stop them. But what it shows you is that there's divisions. And look, let me be real. Let me strip it all down to the foundational piece. That's the issue that can happen sometimes in cultures. That why you get taken over is because you become so divisive and civil war ready that a stronger culture that is not having those issues comes in and takes you over. And that's the danger sometimes, whether it's socially, politically, or overall in the history of the world. That's what happens sometimes to these places. And so you're seeing what she said. She said, we couldn't have been beaten if we were all together. And I'm trying to bring us all together so we're all of one mind. It's just not going to be easy. So,
and how epic was that when they were all standing forward, and you notice in the direction it was like someone with the helmet would stand forward, then someone without a helmet, and like they were really doing it good, and then a couple people with a helmet, then a couple people without a helmet. Like that was like such a thing of like, all right, they're coming together right now. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Like that was really powerful to me. That like got me right there in the feels.
I agree with you, dude. I agree. And then now let's head underneath here to finish out talking about this episode. We get the showdown between them as the Mandalorians run down into this cave, possibly being led into this cave by the attack. Maybe that attack was stimulated by Moff Gideon into this cave here, and they are attacked by what is in essence Imperial jump troopers. Not sure if I've ever seen anything like this, Kevin. Maybe I'm not as schooled in Star Wars as you are, but Imperial jump troopers in live action is the first time I've ever seen this in any live action Star Wars. And they have Beskar armored, and they are dark troopers. So you say this, okay, dark troopers, this feels very reminiscent. Beskar armor, who did we see at the Forge? Who is carving out the Beskar armor? That's the armor. So is she involved in some way? We don't know, but certainly there's questions to be asked. And then we see this next evolution of Gideon's dark troopers, and they call themselves the Imperial Super Commandos. And this becomes a massive fight that goes on back and forth between everybody. They run down into this TIE fighter hangar, and then the door shut. And we see there that they're all standing outside, and then Gideon, and they've got the Mandalorian trapped just by himself. And they pull him aside, and they essentially put him down to his knees, and they take him out. And Bo-Katan reveals herself verbally to Moff Gideon. And Moff's like, we got to stop meeting like this because I'm always beating you for control of Mandalore. Asks for the darksaber. She says, kick rocks. Cuts open a hole with the darksaber, so everybody get out except for Paz Vizsla, who stays and just absolutely tries to annihilate every one of those jump troopers and dark troopers. And the thing closes. He closes the door on so he can stay there, and he kicks ass for a little while, giving them time to get out of there until boom, 3 Praetorian guards show up. Very, of course, what we saw in The Last Jedi. And they take care of business. But Paz went out like something out of Predator, man. He was a badass, huge dude, went out as a warrior, goes out on Mandalorian land. So in his own way, he went out as he wanted to with a good death, and that was the way for him. So what do you think about all this? Them being kind of led down into this tunnel, then the jump troopers show up, the fighting back and forth. Paz also is like going crazy with his 50 cal all over them, and then they end up trapped in this place chasing the Imperial jump troopers. So was that a trap that was purposely set up? And then boom, Gideon does his thing, and then Paz dies. So what do you think about all of this?
Yeah, I mean, Din suffers by being a consequence of being a hero, and he's like chasing him. Like, and I love how he's just like, no fear, like, let's go. And they really do, like, those troopers, man. Like, it's like a combo of like Mandalorian and like Clone War era, like clone armor, and they really do paint them as like these badass, like, you know, elite squad. Like they're like the SEAL Team 6 in space, you know. So, and then obviously with Paz, like that, I love his gun, how it like overheated. And it was like it's like and he just starts beating people, man. Like just like one of the most epic deaths in Star Wars that got reversed, that a lot of people hated it when it happened, was when Chewbacca died by a moon falling on him. And I was always like, that is an epic way to like I remember the wording in the novel was like he growled defiantly at the moon that was crushing his world or whatever. Like that was his death scene. And this was like that, like just, you know, he's just taking everybody out. And then you know, it's like when you introduce the Praetorian Guards and then like in The Last Jedi, and then they're taken out, you know, they never really felt like this. They made them feel like, whoa, these guys are really intimidating, which I think also will help The Last Jedi when you see them. You'll be like, oh God, more of these guys. And now there's 8 of them. Yeah. They have a little different of helmets. They have like it's kind of, again, the T, like that Clone Wars T era. It's a little bit different than the one that we'll see in the First Order, but the way they like finally take him down, like it's just great. Like what a great character. I'm glad. I mean, his son's going to be out for revenge too, right? So that's going to be a familiar story that they'll follow.
That sounds familiar. Jango Fett to Boba Fett, the son wanting, you know, revenge for what happened to the dad. That's all there, of course. Yeah.
So good, man. And then the armor. Let's talk about that too. The armor of Gideon. He had horns on it. Get horns on it, and so does the armorer. She has horns on hers. I'm not saying that would be a little obvious if you're trying to hide it, and then you guys show up in the same armor. But I thought Gideon's armor was pretty dope too. Like,
dude,
What is that guy's story, man? Like he's like a combo of like just like the best Imperial officers, but he's like kind of formidable, like in battle too, you know. And I mean, what's going to happen now? Like with Din captured, and it took a lot. That reminded me of Wolverine. I love the Wolverine. I didn't like the ending with Silver Samurai was a little much, but like that movie up to that point. But there's that part where he gets shot with all the arrows and he's trying to get, and it's like it takes everything to like take him down by those ninjas. Yeah. And this was very much like Din. It just he everything will just will him to keep going forward, but eventually you get taken out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, dude, I'd love to see the Mangold cut of that, the actual Mangold cut of that film one day for sure, man. Cut out that last 20-30 minutes and do something better with that. I agree. I mean, I think this was a pretty awesome way to go about it because, again, like we say with Star Wars, you get caught up in following the hero path, and I like that the newer Star Wars always comes and surprises you, just like it did in Empire Strikes Back. They harken that back every time. The moment you feel comfortable, the moment you feel good, the moment you feel great, here comes something darker to put you back on your heels, just like life. So I love that you've got that in this running throughout the Mandalorian and Andor as well. But seeing Paz Vizsla's reaction is pretty awesome. Seeing Bo-Katan be a leader and tell Gideon to kiss her ass and go over there and open and cut the fucking door open with the Darksaber. So
Qui-Gon Jinn style, dude.
Yeah, exactly. It was so badass.
My favorite Jedi.
Yeah, and then seeing the Mandalorian getting taken, so that makes sense, on so many levels because he hasn't been the main guy in this season at all. So him being taken to be held prisoner, so the other Mandalorians led by Bo-Katan could save him, makes sense. But I wonder what we're gonna get with the armor. It's a great point you make, and of course, but to me, Gideon is like a pro wrestler. He's like one of those pro wrestlers that comes out of the big robes. He's like Flair, he's got to come out a little extra. He's always got to be a little extra. And so seeing the new armor, it's like, look at my armor. What do you think of my armor? You like my armor?
He like lands. It's like theatricality, man.
Yeah, exactly. He loves that kind of shit. He's a pro wrestler, he's an Imperial pro wrestler. But yeah, I like that element of it all. But there's going to be a lot of questions coming into the finale here. Are we going to get everything? Are we going to get our answers for any of this? And how much of this is going to launch into Ahsoka? How much of this is going to launch into those 3 movies or parts of the 3 movies that have been announced at Star Wars Celebration, we're going to talk about? How much are we opening the door to a new season of Mandalorian or closing the door to the whole situation until that Filoni movie? There's a lot of questions for sure. Anything we missed that you want to make sure we hit? Anything that like music wise or set design wise or storyline wise that we did not cover here in this spoiler review?
No, I just think that I really like that scene where he kind of pledged himself to her, like, you know what I'm saying, like where he's like, and he's like, it's not about the Darksaber, it's not it's about honor, like that. That's just that just goes to show that Din is not. Now I wonder if the armor will take her helmet off and then she'll be like, you guys, I did that whole thing, like it's all part of the plan. Like I don't know, because it would be interesting to see where that goes. But I do think it's going to lead into, like, I feel like this is like these movies, like these series are like almost like Marvel movies, right? And it's a phase now. It's like, so because obviously with Book of Boba Fett, they literally had a huge story point for Mandalorian happen during that. So Mandalorian season 2 led to Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett leads to season 3. I think season 3 leads to Ahsoka, and then Ahsoka will lead to season 4, and then I think that will be the end game for the Avengers the Avengers movie, the full Filoni Avengers, Filoni Avengers.
Well, it's not another impossibility. Bo-Katan shows up in that Ahsoka series, so kind of leading back to season 4 of The Mandalorian. If we stay with Bo-Katan, that's a very real possibility as well. So I would not be surprised, because I mean, Filoni, as we're going to talk about, certainly made it clear that movie that he's doing is the wrap up of both the Ahsoka and the Mandalorian storyline. So
I'd like to finally say my last word would be there's no better, talk about theatricality. When he enters the room for the Shadow Council, he has all those red like gates open for him. Like that is a WrestleMania worthy entrance right there for Gideon going. Everybody in the Shadow Council is like, why does he have so many of that? It's very shades of the Phantom Menace too, with the Obi-Wan and the battle with Maul, where everything's going through. Loved it.
A lot of people mentioned, I mean, look at that. That is so extra. But a lot of people mentioned that it's also reminiscent of Vader in Rogue One when he turns the lightsaber on and it's all red and doing his thing. So it's very interesting to see that with Gideon. He's definitely a power guy for sure, and showing that power whenever he can.
Yeah.
Let's hit some of these Streamlabs and super chats, Kevin, that have come through. AZ Badfish says, "Hey y'all, hope all is well. This feels like a dumb question. Maybe I missed something way early on, but is Din the only one in shiny armor because he's the only one in Beskar, or is he just the only one who hasn't painted his up yet? Thanks, much love." What are your thoughts on that, Kevin?
I don't know. Now that I think about it, like. Because like you're seeing the blaster bolts reflect off the other Mandalorians too,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's different levels. So I would say that Din just likes to present himself nice and like to nice spit shine. He takes it to the nearby tailor in the outer rim. Outer rim tailors is what it's called. He knows the owner. Well, he has a signed picture. It's like, oh, thanks for when you go to the cleaners, you have all the Schwarzenegger was here. At this one random place off Lincoln Boulevard.
According to Screen Rant here, Din Djarin's armor was made from pure Beskar earned through the bounty on Grogu. So this made Din Djarin's armor rare and even more durable than normal Mandalorian armor, allowing it to stay shiny and undamaged even when he walked into a barrage of blaster fire. So there you go. That seems to answer that question for you there.
Those are the answers, man.
Yeah, you gotta love it. Phil says, "Big up, John, Kevin, and everyone. OMG, this episode." Yeah, 100%, Phil. 100%. Good to see you, Phil. Phil coming in from either Phil. Phil's coming in from London. So thank you, Phil, for hanging out with us today. And he says, "R.I.P. Paz Vizsla, sacrificing himself like Billy from Predator." There you go.
Yeah.
Will we ever see his likes again? Respect, by the way, repped my top 10 live shirt at Star Wars Celebration. Oh, that's awesome, Phil. I wish you'd taken a picture of that. Yeah. But your thoughts, Kevin? Yeah. Do we see another guy this size like Paz Vizsla essentially coming back into the Mandalorians, or was this guy a one-off?
Oh man, I hope so. That helmet design is like one of my favorites too. Yeah. Like it's just
a little flag and shit.
It just looks more sturdier, and it's like with those angles. I don't know, man. When you got a character like that who's unique like that, like sometimes it's cool, yet you don't see another one like it. Yeah. So we had our time with it, and he went out like a boss and a champ, and hopefully his son. You know what? To answer the question, his son will be in the Rey Skywalker sequel movie. His son will be there, and then we'll see.
I want to see the 80s montage of him lifting weights to get him.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do for that.
Around. Yeah, I want to see.
I do wonder, dude, like what this movie will do for everyone in the Filoni-verse, because by the time The Force Awakens, like. How old would Din Djarin be? Like, would he be around still? Is he dead? Like Grogu too, all that stuff. Maybe they'll solve the Grogu thing with maybe she's one of the first Jedi with Rey in the sequels, but the sequel to the sequels. But yeah, I'm very curious. I'm always wrapped up with what are the final fates of everybody going to be. Like, that's how I always was the Bad Batch too. Like, who's going to live? Who's going to die? Like, and especially like in these movies, like where are the Mandalorians during the rise of the First Order?
Good question.
Yeah, during that era, you know what I mean? Like that gets me nervous. Like, where are they? Do they end? Does it end bad again? I hope not. But
yeah, good question, my man. Fantastic 314 says, "Hey guys, if the armor is with Moff Gideon, then she needs all the Mandalorians to be wiped out because they will definitely rally to Bo-Katan and Din to battle for their homeland." Yeah. Are you questioning your armor feelings right now? I mean,
me, no.
Okay.
No. I still think it. Like, I just think I didn't think that at first, but when she was like, "Oh, I'll go with because I didn't trust the Night Owls." So for me, like, I was like, "Oh, I'll go with them." So she's conveniently away from the trap again. Like, she's gonna reveal herself. I think, and then maybe she'll have her Night Owl sect that like that. Those are her people now, and it'll be a more fractured battles.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question on a personal level. You don't have to answer this, but. It seems like they figured out that Mercedes Varnado, maybe not the best actress, so they don't let her say much. And even in that one moment when she wants to speak up to defend Bo-Katan, when she is revealing that she essentially surrendered to the Night Owls or surrendered to Gideon, telling the Night Owls and the rest of the Mandalorians that she wants to speak up, and Bo doesn't let her speak. So do you think they figured out she's a good presence? But it's better not to have her speak. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Vince McMahon got in Favreau's ear and was like, "She's not in the WWE anymore. Like, cut her roll down.
Don't give her any lines, pal.
Don't get her any lines.
You're fired." Elise Steels is upset at both of us. She says, "When would the armor have time to become a spy? She's been with Paz and the others since we met them. If anyone else is a spy, I'd bet on Axe. That's what she says. So Axe is not big enough to be a spy. He's not a big enough character, man.
I hope you're right. I don't want to see you disappointed, Elise, but I feel like you're going to be disappointed, and it's going to be heartbreaking for us all. But then again, maybe I'm wrong, because like sometimes if it feels too obvious, maybe they are kind of just leading us away to this to keep our eye. It's like a sleight of hand. Like move over here to see. What I do, magic for my kid, like try to put her away from what I'm
sleight of hand and stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? This is a good question. Peter Griffin, Ragnar and Grogu will be drinking Din's wine he got from Grief. Yeah, where's that wine? Did that wine survive the trip?
I want some of that, man. I love the line. He's like, "I best be saved for a smaller party." That was really good.
All right, but there we go. That's all our review for The Mandalorian Episode 7, The Spies. There was so much to jump into. Hope you enjoyed our breakdown of it all. We're going to take a quick break. Thanks for the Streamlabs and Super Chats as well in the lively chat. And we're going to jump into the big news from Star Wars Celebration and get Smets' thoughts about all of it here right after we take a quick break here on the Jedi Way. I should have music that plays in it. I always forget to.
I'll hum some music for you. Ready? Da 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 da. There you go.
That's good. That's good. All right, Kevin, we've been talking about it. We've been alluding to it. As long as it's under 6 seconds, we're fine. But we've been alluding to it and talking about it here. Big Star Wars celebration in London. I will give the hot mic a little bit of love. Jeff Snyder did drop the scoop that Dave Filoni was going to direct one of those films. And sure enough, even though a lot of the Star Wars YouTube channel scoffed at us, it was announced that Dave Filoni was going to direct one of the 3 films. We also have, of course, Shamina Abachinoy's film that is coming as well. So we got 3 films that are coming from 3 different directors here. What do you anticipate? Why do you think they went this route, I guess, to have 3 different directors, not necessarily having a trilogy? And where do you think they're going to go with all of this as we look at these 3 films that were announced at the Lucasfilm panel?
Well, Kathleen Kennedy, I something she said which kind of struck with me, and I liked it. It made me think, like, oh, interesting. She's going to showcase the past with the Dawn of the Jedi.
Yes.
And showcase the present with the Filoni film, like the Filoni-verse, and then the future, which is after everything we've ever seen. So she wants to touch on
the James Mangold film,
like past, future. Yeah. So we're going to see the beginning with like whoever wrote the sacred Jedi texts. We're going to find that out. And then we'll get in the future where everybody in the present with everything. We're loving the Filoni. So like you can't miss with that. And then everybody's, aside from the haters that she has and the people that hate the Disney era of Star Wars, Rey was a popular character. So like that movie, hopefully. And I do believe like they're going to really jumpstart. And, they do take ideas from Legends and kind of, obviously mold them into their own unique ways. So I do believe that we'll see a lot of what was going on in Legends with the Jedi Academy. We'll finally get that with Rey. And I think that they'll probably repurpose some stuff. So I'm excited for that. So those movies, like Mangold, like they wouldn't give it to him if they weren't stoked and happy on Indiana Jones. And so apparently they're loving what they're seeing. And a biblical epic like that. Like, again, I'm partial to my Old Republic, right? So one day maybe we'll get one of those movies. But if you're going to stay away from the Old Republic for now, let's go right back to the very dawn of existence. I do know it does have some KOTOR references with the Rakatan Empire. The Rakatan Empire were these like bloodthirsty, evil aliens, and they look like crazy. Like if this is my head, my eyes are out here. Like just Google Rakatan Empire, and if they were like literal locusts, they would go into planet to planet and like wipe people out. But they were connected to the beginning of the Jedi. And if you look at that logo for the Dawn of the Jedi, which is from that timeline, that's very similar to the thing on Octu, that mosaic that Luke was sitting on when he was talking about the history of the Jedi or whatever. It's like a light and a dark. And if you do some research into your Legends, there was literally like a species, and I'm a little iffy on it because I haven't thought about it in a long time. But these ships would go planet to planet and take pluck people and then throw them all on a planet. This is Legends now, not canon anymore. And they would see who would end up being Jedi sensitive, Force sensitive before the first Jedi. So we didn't even know what a Jedi was. And they would wait, and then they would pluck all the people that didn't have the Force off and put them on a moon nearby. So then you'd have this planet, and the planet started to segregate into the people that were doing dark side stuff and light side stuff, which was similar kind of to that mosaic. So, I mean, if they go that route where we get the Rakatan Empire, because then they end up fighting, like the Jedi use their powers to fight the Rakatans, which are just this bloodthirsty, just horrible alien species. They're not really nice. So it would be really cool to see, like, in that biblical epic. And then, of course, Filoniverse, we've talked our heads off about it. And then the future, for some people who didn't like the sequel trilogy and how it was disconnected, like, it's interesting. They're going to only do one at a time. That's fine. Like, and I just hope that they overall have a thread line throughout everything, so we don't have filmmakers contradicting themselves. And again, they were put in a tough spot when Carrie Fisher died. So with that Trevor thing, I understand how that kind of fell apart. But I really hope, because I like Daisy Ridley, I like those actors, and I hope that Boyega comes back. I know that he kind of had a soured experience, but I really hope that they'll have a cameo from him, or he's one of the Jedi Masters, or do a cold open where he's in it and then he gets killed early on to set off the part. Do an executive decision with Kurt Russell and what was it, Steven Seagal? Spoiler alert! Executive decision. They kill Steven Seagal in the opening scene of that movie, which it's like cool. So, well, don't do that. Boyega getting killed in the first scene of the new movie. Don't quote me on that. Everybody's gonna be like, "You hate Boyega." I love him.
Stay on the plane, man. Stay on the plane. I don't think Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, as a black filmmaker, would direct a film where you have a person of color filmmaker would have it where you kill Boyega. That's not how
kill him off in the first. I
don't think this is how this would go down. But I think this is great. I'm 100% on board with you. I love the Daisy Ridley announcement. I know everyone's a Kylo Ren stan, but Daisy Ridley was always my favorite. Just my number one. I thought she was fantastic. I mean, this is a woman that came out of doing 6 guest spots on British television on different shows to lead a Star Wars franchise. That's a hell of a thing to put on the shoulders of a young actress.
Yeah.
And I thought she carried it off like gangbusters over those 3 movies. I think the writing let her down. I think some of the directing and the framing of the story let her down, but her performance, I never questioned, and I thought she was great. Just as much people love Adam Driver. And it always surprised me that Daisy has not been able to kind of parlay that into some successful movies. And certainly she's been the lead in some stuff, but she's also been part of ensemble and hasn't necessarily stood out. So coming back to something that really established you, and then maybe repairing some of the mistakes from that sequel trilogy to do something a little more stronger, a little more of a through line here, I think is a positive thing overall. And who knows who's going to pop in and do, will we get a Kylo Ren Force Ghost? Will Adam Driver do them a solid? I don't know. Will we see that? Will we see Finn? Will we see? Because look, they all said this stuff, but they've been softening their stances over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I kind of predicted Ridley would be coming back at some point a few months ago when she made these comments where she said at a junket, like I think it was Chaos Walking or something, where she said she, in essence, is cooling on the negative feelings that she had about the experience. So time heals all wounds. And when you see different people in charge, when you see positive energy like Filoni and Favreau and others pushing, and Andor pushing this forward, then you start to think, okay, they're going to give me something a little more grittier to sink my teeth into. And moving Damon Lindelof off, which is a really shocking thing, to bring in Stephen Knight, who's done Peaky Blinders, a British creator as well. What is he going to create here with his script that's going to really highlight what Rey can do as a in this launching of a next section of her story? So
crackpot theory here, because I love him. I think when Ben Solo dies, right, he disappears and he's not a Force ghost in the end. Although I watched a cool fan edit where they added a Force ghost of him. It was really cool. But when he dies, like, a lot of people said, like, because he's giving his life force into her, right? And it would be very interesting if, like, the last Jedi, the first Jedi, whatever you want to call it now, this new order, has been in her, right? Like his kind of essence and soul. So maybe it's something where, like, he's kind of the angel on her shoulder, but, like, he's because his Force dyad, we don't know, like, if they can go real mystical. So instead of just the standard Force ghost, maybe there's something else where, like, she is representing both parts of them now. They were a Force dyad and now he disappeared, right? So
do we have a Mark Hamill Force ghost? What's your money on that?
Yeah, I think so. I would hope so, because I think he wants to I think they all kind of want to, especially if it's a good script. Like I think they all felt soured a little by it. And so I think that Mark Hamill would be for it.
Yeah, I would love to see that as well. And yeah, a Filoni, his story is going to be fun to kind of wrap up the Mandoverse. So that's going to be, he's got time to get to that. Because I mean, this Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy film is going to, I think, be the first one out the gate, which is really interesting.
The Ray one?
Oh, wow. Yeah, the first movie to come out since the last movie really is the Ray story yet again. So that's kind of surprising considering all the false starts that they've had over the last few years of possible movies coming through with the Feige movie, the Waititi movie, all these things. Now we're getting, in essence, the next movie being the continuation of the sequel trilogy. So it's a gutsy decision, man. I don't know if it'll work, but it's a gutsy decision.
It's just cool though to like finally move forward and maybe be untarnished by not tarnished, but just unshackled by. We got to make 3 movies and they got to be connected. Yeah. Like, let's just get a powerful sequel movie right now and see where it goes. And also, the other big news is that all the movies will have crawls to differentiate them from the shows. Now, I loved at first the cold opens ideas. I hated the font for Rogue One that looked like you did it in iMovie. But like, no disrespect to anyone who uses iMovie, but I'm saying that font was just like, come on. But
you know, not all of us are editors, Kevin. You know, calm it down, dude. You
I said it. I knew that you on Twitter you talked about iMovie. You know what I mean? But like having the crawls now, like I'm back on board with let's have the movies have the crawl. The TV shows don't need the crawls. And so I guess that's going to be interesting too because there's something about that the theme blaring with the logo and then like the crowd cheering that I can't wait to get back to that.
I agree. Oh, well, we got a special guest in the house. John Kaiser is here saying Smets moved to San Diego and became a window washer. What the hell? Rocha has great hair. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You like it, pal? It looks good, huh? I'm hanging out here. I have a harness on. I'm downtown Coruscant.
Thanks for joining us, John. Appreciate it. Thanks for the love there as well. Yeah, we'll see. Some
he owes me $10. I don't know why he's giving you $10. He owes me $10.
Oh, fair enough. There you go.
Come on, Kaiser.
Well, I mean, you know, YouTube takes 50% now. So, but anyway, so I got a nice fiver there. But listen, the other part of this whole thing, we got some other story here, Kevin. Let's move on to these other stories from the weekend. Andor has a release date, a season 2 release date, and is coming in 2024. So what do you think about this? And it leads right into Rogue One. And they were talking about how, you know, they're really happy that they understand there's an end point. They know what they're building to. This is going to jump years. Denise Goff was there to talk about the show as well at Star Wars Celebration. Great to see her. And what do you think about this? If there's going to be these years-long gaps between the episodes, we talk about like Succession right now. Every episode this season is one day, but in The Mandalorian, sometimes we're jumping months or 2 years, according to Favreau in the training for Grogu, jumping into this season of Mandalorian. So what's it going to be for people to see years-long gaps between episodes? That's going to mess with some people, I think. What do you think about this?
I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's is it going to be like a 3-episode arc, then like a year gap, or is it like every like something like that? I think it's cool. Yeah. My favorite thing about sequels are like when you see them and they come back and you know they're Anakin's 9 years older, you know what I mean, like and he's a teenager, or Boyega had a that's why one of my things that I did like The Last Jedi. I'm one of the few, or not few, one of the half that likes it. I'm in the sect of people that like it, but I didn't like that it like happens right afterwards, because I was always like, well, what's going to be in the crawl? The crawl's going to be like, you just saw the ending. We're catching right up. But so I like that. I like time gaps. So I think Andor is going to be cool. It's going to make it feel more epic too. It's going to make it feel like this crazy, like long journey, right? Yeah. And then they doubled down on it again. The last scene's going to be him leaving to go to the Ring of Kafrene. Spoiler alert. He's going to be, before he goes to meet Tivik. So, they're going to literally do like a Rogue One style ending. Like it's going to lead right into New Hope. This is going to lead right into Rogue One. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Rogue One, it's interesting Star Wars viewing for me. Rogue One is like heavy, right? Like you're watching it, you're seeing something special. And then Mandalorian, it's just like, it's more like fun. Like there's so many different ways to have Star Wars now, and I just hope that fans, because Andor is a special thing, and I just hope that fans aren't continually disappointed when it's not going to be Andor, right? Like Andor was great. People hated on Kenobi. I love Kenobi. So like, and I'm not just saying if you didn't like Kenobi, it's because you loved Andor. It's not that. I'm just saying that like, I think there's different ways to tell stories. You could have this kind of storytelling for Andor, and you'll be able to have the crazy madcap adventure type ones, and the random ones, like you said, with Mandalorian. Like you have a couple total different style episodes to kind of keep things fresh. The Book of Boba Fett did that too. So
yeah, every single series has its own flavor and its own approach to Star Wars, and that's the great thing about Star Wars. As you mentioned, it is such a huge thing that you can go from a pirate movie to a Western to a samurai movie to a quiet character piece. There's so much you can do with Star Wars. That's the gift of to judge it based on, it's not that it's not my Andor, or it's not like Andor. I think is a massive mistake for me personally. Yeah.
There's room at the top for everyone, is what I like to say. I'm easy. Like I like everything that, usually. So I'm not one. I would be a horrible critic. Yeah, I would be the worst William Bibiani ever. I wouldn't know how to do it. So yeah, but I usually like everything that's put in front of me, and I understand when things aren't working and stuff like that too. But I try to give everything like the benefit of the doubt, and it's just my love for Star Wars. Like just love. It's like pizza, right? Or it's like sex and pizza. Even bad sex, you're still having sex. Even bad pizza, you're still eating a slice of pizza. Exactly. Sorry did I just violate the terms of service here for you, pal? Did I just demonetize you? But yeah, even bad Star Wars, to me, I'm still watching Star Wars.
Yeah, of course. That's the way it goes. All right, let's see here. What else we got new? Oh, yeah. So let's jump into the Ahsoka trailer, Kevin. Let's get your thoughts on that. I mean, I did a breakdown on Friday with the Geek Buddies on the Ahsoka trailer, but we got Sabine, we got Harrison Dula, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Natasha Liu Bordizzo for Sabine Wren. And then we got Ezra Bridger as well as Thrawn from behind. Of course, as you talked about the extended trailer, which you can find online, you see the face of Thrawn there as well. But we also got to see some of these orange lightsaber wielding Jedi, these dark Jedi, with the great Ray Stevenson being a part of them as well. We got so much in this thing that was just interesting with Lars Mikkelsen. We also got to see a little bit more of Chopper there. We got to see the Ghost. We got to see Lothal. We got to see Diana Lee Innocento as Morgan Elsbeth. We got to see Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma in this trailer. We got Ivana Sakno as Shin Hati, who was part of the Dark Jedi, with Ray Stevenson's Balin Skull. So there was a lot going on in this one. And David Tennant as Hui Yang in this one as well. So
that was cool.
What were your thoughts about this trailer and about what we got here in this as a launch to what we're going to see in the series?
Well, first of all, another crackpot theory. You see the world. I noticed that they're dueling in the. It looks like the world between worlds.
Yes.
And so I wonder if there's going to be a point where, because you hear Ahsoka's disembodied voice at the end of Rise of Skywalker, and remember Filoni's like, that doesn't necessarily mean she's dead. So I wonder if there's going to be a scene at the world between worlds of her like looking and seeing that like Rey is on the ground, like because there's no time and space there, and she says that one liner there, which would be kind of a funny. I don't think they'll do that, but yeah, it would be interesting if she like pops her head and she's like, "Oh, let's go. I'll help out Rey. Rey, use the Force or whatever." But yeah, Lars Mikkelsen's going to be a treat. I saw an interview with him from the Celebration stage, which I should share with you. He said that he took a lot of his leanings from like Moriarty from Sherlock, right?
Nice.
So he kind of took a lot of that influence and inspiration. And Ray Stevenson is going to be great too. He voiced Gar Saxon. He said when he got hired on the gig, he thought he was going to be doing that. And they're like, no, we got something even more fun for you. So Balin Skull, I loved him in Rome. He's so great in Rome, man.
Yes.
And while you were reading the stuff, I was showing a picture of like the orange saber from the old posters. So it's a cool thing. Filoni even mentioned that too and said it's a little more than meets the eye. So I don't necessarily think that. I think that these guys are what they say, like they're like a fallen Jedi, maybe that survived Order 66. Someone was like, maybe it's Darth Bane pulled out of the world between worlds, or maybe she sees Order 66 happening and he gets sucked out. Like there could be some weird tomfoolery when you got the world between worlds going on. So it could be very much Doctor Strange multiverse. I mean, I hope they don't go too heavy on it. But I did notice that the director of this episode of Mando that we've been raving about, Rick
Famuyiwa,
he's doing one of the Ahsoka episodes.
That's great.
He was listed as one of the directors, so everybody should be excited about that. And so I'm excited. And then there was even a Star Wars Resistance actor from that trailer too, standing next to Mon Mothma. I forget the name of the parent, but it's the Kazuda's dad or whatever, Kazuda's father. is there. They confirmed, by the way. He's one of the people in the hologram. So, and Mon Mothma too. By the way, do we know in in Legends? I forget. Mon Mothma kind of had like an untimely end. I wonder because Mon Mothma's not in the sequel trilogy. What happens with her? You know, we're gonna find all that stuff out too. But I don't know if not about in Ahsoka, but. Ahsoka trailer is great. There's so many little Easter eggs in it. I'm really liking that they hid some of the other. I won't say it if you're trying to be very spoiler free, but there's some really cool episode 3 connections that they might do. I don't know how spoiler heavy you get into it with this show, Rocha. So
yeah, we do. I mean, everything we talked about, we speculate and whatever. So if you've got something,
it's speculation based on some leaks. So maybe Yeah, I'll tell you off the air. But yeah, there's going to be some very special things, especially if you were a fan of the Clone Wars and Ahsoka and Anakin and stuff like that. So
I hear Mara Jade. I hear the Mara Jade conversation popping up now. People think that might be her who she's fighting in the trailer near the end of the trailer. That might be Mara Jade, which could be an interesting way to bring her into this whole thing of Ahsoka and the timeline. I don't know.
Yeah, the world between worlds, like I said, you could really do anything. I mean, they had Ezra pull Ahsoka out of time to save her ass from Vader. So, but Ray Stevenson and Mads Mikkelsen, if you watch that interview that's on the Star Wars thing, they're so excited about being part of Star Wars, and that just that, like warms my heart, man. Like when you see these people, like they get excited and they're blown away by it. The Hayden Christensen interview was really touching too. He got all emotional up there. Although he should have said what he's like, what people yell at him all the time. Like you could hear one person in the crowd yell, "I don't like sand." He should have said it. He should have owned it. He didn't. He said he said fans say may the force be with him most. I'm like, I don't know. I think I would. If I saw him at a bar, I'd be like, bro, I know you don't like sand, but let's take a shot. Maybe he slice me with a hey, bro, let's take a shot on sand.
All right, let me ask another. Let me move on here to the Acolyte. This is really interesting as well. Here, the Acolyte, of course, it's being it was pitched as Frozen meets Kill Bill. It's set 100 years before the prequel trilogy. We got the ensemble cast there with Amanda Stenberg, Lee Jung-jae, Carrie-Anne Moss, Jodie Turner-Smith, and Dean Charles Chapman. Apparently, the footage, which I have not seen, shows Carrie-Anne Moss fighting Amanda Stenberg and training her and whatever. But Leslie Headland said, I think that people have this conception the Jedi is very stoic and without emotion. And I think JJ, who is Lee Jung-jae, that's who he's playing, brings to this particular role is an emotional complexity that you don't often get to see with the Jedi. You see some with characters, but I think that what he's done is astonishing. I can't wait for the world to see it. So what are your thoughts on this with the Acolyte?
Was Laura part of, I was following Laura and John Hoey's tweets all weekend.
Yeah.
Was Laura at that screening? Because I actually, again, through some of my techniques, I saw like the first 30 seconds of that leaked trailer. And nice. Like, it is High Republic come to life. She is gonna love it because she loves High Republic. And I saw a little bit. It's very, very martial arts influenced. Like, you know, and I know it's Carrie-Anne Moss, so it's easy to say it reminded me of like the Matrix, but it did. Like there was a part where like it was like a martial arts move combined with a force push, which is like, damn, that's gonna be cool. So hopefully everybody will get to see those that trailer leak, or not leak, but get released soon. But the Acolyte, I love that Juno Suetamo gets to play a Wookiee again. Yeah. People are complaining that the Wookiee's wearing clothes. They're like, why is he wearing clothes? That just means that like Chewie was just walking around just, you know, balls naked all the time, like during the original trilogy. If Wookiee, and I'm like, well, maybe Wookiees had to wear clothes if they were Jedi. Like maybe they have to wear the robes, like ceremonial. But yeah. And then I think it's really cool that they're going to have Rebecca Henderson play, I think you said it, but Vanessa Rao, and that is a character from High Republic. So again, I never really got into High Republic. There's some great videos out there where you could watch recaps of what it is. It's a lot of characters to really follow. So I really I think Laura would be the expert on how to get into it layman style, but I think it would be beneficial to get into some of these books, because I think when the Acolyte comes out, you get a lot more fun of like, oh, look at that, or look at that person there. So
that's a good point. That's a good point. Let's move on a little bit more to the announcement that Return of the Jedi is going to be released in theaters when it turns 40, which is this year. They're re-releasing it in later on this spring, and they released a brand new fucking poster for this thing, and it is
sick,
gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So, what are your thoughts when you hear this Return of the Jedi being released yet again out in the public? I mean, I remember seeing this when it was re-released with the changes years ago. with my dad. So what do you think about this happening again?
Oh, I'm one of the crazy ones that watched all of the Star Wars ones before Force Awakens. Like there was like an AMC screening thing. And I remember like it started at midnight. I'm like, all right, I'll watch Phantom Menace up till Pod Race, and I'm going to skip Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and then I'll get home or I'll get back to the theater in time for Order 66, which was like, I predicted it would be like at 4:30 in the morning. Order 66 happens. So it was fun to do, but like, yeah, Return of the Jedi, like watching that with a crowd again, it's like, you forget how fun these movies are. Empire Strikes Back is a really funny movie, great writing. And like when Han and Leia are like arguing in the Hoth tunnels about like with a full crowd, even though we've seen these movies 50 times, you're still laughing at all the jokes. And Return of the Jedi is going to be more of the same. So I highly recommend any of these Star Wars movies when they come back out. The one sad thing about Disney acquiring Star Wars was they stopped it dead in its tracks, the re-releases, because originally we're going to release all the movies in 3D. So I'm wondering, John, if they're going to release it in a 3D version of it too, because they did make 3D prints of all the movies. So I'm curious if that exists, and because I would see that in 3D. Like I'm a sucker for a good gimmick movie. You know,
one at a time.
Speeder bike chase.
Release the uncut versions.
What's that?
Then you can turn them into 3D. Is that what you're talking about? The original trilogy?
No, yeah, Return of the Jedi in 3D, like because they released the. Oh, look at that poster, man!
Sick. That poster is sick, dude.
Yeah, that artist commented about it too. That I forget what the quote was, but he had a blast doing it, and he has a love for. He wanted to keep it a little more green and like because he had a poster for Empire, which was more cold, you know, obviously. So Return of the Jedi is a great film. Mark Ellis will love seeing it. That's his favorite Star Wars movie. So.
No, I want to see the uncut versions. Release the uncut versions, then play with them in 3D.
Oh, come on. You need the despecialized?
Can we? Yeah, despecialized 3D versions of the film. I would 100% be. But do you think we're getting closer to getting a despecialized version?
I hope so, because I know the fans that really want it. I like the newer ones. Like my wife is younger than me, and like I always joke with her, and I'm like, she like if a movie's from like 1995, she's like, oh, this is an old movie. Can we watch a new one, right? So like, it was a tough like trying to get her to watch at first. Like to be true story, like we watched A New Hope, and like you know sometimes some of those shots, long shots, it's dated. It's like she's used to these Marvel movies and Guardians of the Galaxy and all these like crazy things happening. So, but then ironically enough, the Kenobi show made my wife fall in love with Star Wars. Now we're going back and watching the prequels, and she actually can't wait to watch the original trilogy again. She really did like Empire and Return of the Jedi. So it's going to be interesting for that nonetheless. Yes.
Yeah. I'm kind of due for a sequels rewatch. I'm kind of due for a sequel trilogy rewatch.
Oh yeah, you should. I'm curious when you can report back how you think of all of it. But yeah, despecialized, I think it deserves to be out there for film historians. Those movies, I saw Return of the Jedi. It was probably my first earliest memory of a theater. I remember the part where Luke backflips onto that thing and you're about to betray you, father. Like I remember that in the theater, and it would be cool to see these untouched cuts where the Sarlacc was scary, by the way, without that thing, the Muppet in the middle. It was scary as just a pit, dude. Like, come on, that gave me nightmares as a kid. So. I want other kids to get nightmares about a Sarlacc pit without the mouth.
There you go. Fair point. Star Wars Visions 2, they released a trailer for that. I did a trailer reaction for it. As soon as I saw it was released, I jumped up immediately and watched that thing. It was incredible, man. So many different styles of animation, stop motion, the claymation stuff, and of course the anime influence, and then all these different countries and their styles of animation. 9 different studios. What did you think about this trailer and these announcements, bro?
The trailer was sick, man. Like to be honest, I haven't finished the first Visions.
What?
Like life and child. I have a child. Okay, look at my bags under my eyes. I never sleep anymore. Yeah, Visions was great. Like, and what I saw from Visions. So these new ones look great, and I think the claymation's from Aardvark or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I love. Chicken Run. It's one of my
Aardman. Yeah.
I know Aardman. I know I'm butchering the name, but apparently Wedge is in that one, and they said that they gave Wedge more lines in this short than he has in the entire Star Wars saga. So for the Wedge lovers out there, they're gonna love it. But yeah, a lot of those designs look great. I think I saw a young Hera in there, or am I just
a young Harrison Dula?
I don't want to say that all species look the same, right? Like I'm not a speciesist. But yeah, so I want to make sure that I'm gonna make sure I get Visions and watch that before I watch the second Visions.
You're
Looks
ridiculous.
great.
All species matter. Yeah, I feel the same way. It was great to see all the different styles and to see the little Harrison Dula as well. They announced that they're ending Bad Batch with season 3. Do you think it's just time? The people seem to be in and out this season, and then it ended with a bang, but people were kind of in and out throughout the whole season. So do you think it's a smart move to end it after season 3?
Yeah, I mean, I've been one of the, and I'll say this, like, if it was a different animation style or live action or just something different, like, it felt, Clone Wars to me was wrapped up so perfectly.
Yeah.
I loved it so much that when this came out, I was like, oh, it's the same animation. It's not like with Resistance, that's like a different show, right? It's like, it feels like a different show. It's animation. And I know it's a big ask, and I love that Filoni, which I've walked back a little on my opinion, because Filoni said he loved giving these animators time to like come into their own, right? Like, and Bad Batch was serving as that, because he wasn't like fully with Bad Batch. He's been doing other things. Yeah. So for that in mind, like the story again, some of the quest of the weeks, where it's like, oh, you get sent on a quest. Oh, Omega runs off. We got to save Omega. Now we escape. Wrecker says, I'm hungry. And it's like a rinse, repeat, right? Some of the filler episodes. But the episodes that they did where they really, really get you. And like
Crosshair stuff.
Tech was a great story. Crosshairs is a great character. So they're really starting to peak, and I love that storyline about clones. Like, what happens to all the clones? Like clone rights, and like that is a deeply emotional and a deeply deep thing to contemplate of like what happens to these clones. So I think that season 3 is going to be awesome. This was the Empire Strikes Back season. You end on I think it's like happening in 3s. I think it's cool. Like I think it's a good idea. Like have these animations where we could do it in 3. So I didn't really, to be honest, before I was doing any weekly Star Wars show, I didn't watch Bad Batch. Like I was just like, Clone Wars. I like my Clone Wars. I watched the Kanan flashback. That was cool. But I was like, for me, I was like, I want to move on from that era finally. Right. But coming back and rewatching everything and covering it when I was doing Scoundrels, like I really started to like it. Those filler episodes really were killing me. So I'm excited for season 3. I don't think Tech died, because the goggles, like, they conveniently had the goggles, like, so I'm hoping that I'm hoping that I get this another one where how are they going to all have a happy ending? But I think these guys deserve a happy ending. Like usually in Star Wars, I like my dark endings and some epic sacrifices, but I feel like these guys deserve a happy ending, and I hope they involve Boba Fett with Fennec Shan being in there. I'm like, maybe there's going to be a little Boba Fett interaction. See the Alpha and the Omega coming together, like that'll be great. So I'm really excited about the 3rd season, and I'm not happy that it's going away, because I know a lot of people really like that show, and I did like it. I'm just not like the gung ho like. I wasn't the gung-ho Bad Batch fan of my group, but season 3 to wrap it up hopefully, and I like that they have a plan and they're going to just stick to it, and they're not going to try to keep going because fan demand, right? Like wrap it up.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's good. It's a very British way of doing things. You wrap it up before people get tired of it, for sure. Brian Cox, I was listening to him in an interview about Succession. He was saying the same thing. I love the fact that it's ending in season 4. It's done.
I got to see this. You keep talking about it, man. It's a good show, huh?
Yeah, you got to watch it, man. Get on it. Come on. Especially because you're a WWE guy. A lot of shades of that stuff in there as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap it up there, because we're at the 6:15 mark.
Young Jedi Adventures as the father. Young Jedi Adventures is going to be my daughter's, and she likes watching Star Wars, but like we were watching Attack of the Clones with my wife, and like when the next few came out, like scared the crap out of my daughter. So like, oh, got to turn it off, dude. When the Acklay and the arena battle, like that's probably terrifying to a 2-year-old. But Young Jedi Adventures takes place. They're going to go to Batuu, so there'll be Star Wars Galaxy's Edge connections. Yep. And then that girl from Saturday Night Live, Nassim Pedrad. Pedrad is the voice of it. So that'll be cool. And it takes place like 200 years before the Phantom Menace. And so there's going to be Yoda, little cutesy Yoda. Like, and my kid, I could show you a video right now. Every time she sees Yoda, she yells Yoda. It's like whatever, she said Yoda before Daddy, I think. So that's kind of sad. But yeah, Young Jedi Adventures coming out. I'm excited for that. And then the other thing is that Star Tours, they announced that they're going to be doing a couple new adventures. I wish they would do a couple new ones for the Millennium Falcon ride. That would be cool to go to another planet for that one. But they are doing a new Star Tours adventures. What's going to be great is I think they're going to start incorporating the Disney Plus shows. So I think like
right
now, if you are familiar with Star Wars or Star Tours, it's kind of like a slot machine. Like the opening has a scene, then you have a middle thing where a hologram talks to you, and then you have a finale, right? So and it's randomized, right? So I think they're going to do one now with the Disney Plus where maybe Din pops up on screen or Bo-Katan, and we're going to see Navarro, and we'll have new adventures with the Disney Plus shows. So that'll be awesome, dude. As a fan of Star Tours, I like Star Tours better than Smuggler's Run, actually.
Wow, there's a hot take.
That's a hot take right there. Quote me.
Wow. And if we're going to stay in there, one more Star Wars Tales of the Jedi season 2 was announced as well. So I want to see what we're going to get, because I really enjoyed the Dooku Ahsoka stuff that we got in the first one. I've rewatched that thing, I think 3 times. It's such an easy, quick watch. And I love the Dooku. They mentioned Dooku again recently. So Dooku is something that eventually they're going to have to put into motion, because they keep talking all around it and showing him in anime. I want to see something with Dooku live action that isn't Christopher Lee, and give me something else.
Wow, I like that.
Into. Come on. I mean, I love the old, because don't get me wrong, but give me the younger Dooku. Let me see.
You got to try watching Phantom Menace. And right when that, I figured out where it was, because when I was watching it with my wife, I was like, "Hear me out. I want to play this scene." Because when we were watching, because now she wants to watch it.
Yeah,
and we've stopped. We've ran out of time as the baby gets a little more older and more time. But we watched Phantom Menace, and I found the part where, like, okay, we're gonna stop, load up. I had it loaded on the other thing, so it's like Phantom Menace. The scene happens, and then I cut to those scenes with Dooku or whatever.
Yeah,
and it was interesting, because then when he pops up again in midway part of Attack of the Clones, he's like, "Oh, there's Dooku," and it was like set up. So it's really cool. If you ever watch Phantom Menace, I would suggest when it gets to that part, like when they come back to report to the council, like pop in the Tales of the Jedi episode and watch it kind of in chronological order. It's really fun to see. And, you know, who doesn't love Yaddle, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yaddle's the best. All right, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this live episode of The Jedi Way. Big thanks to Kevin Smets for sitting in for Laura Kelly, who is off traveling the world for a little bit.
She's on assignment.
She's on assignment exactly with The Jedi Way. She will be back next week. We'll have some fun with her, catching up with her experiences at Star Wars Celebration and all of that, and reviewing the finale. And we'll see if Kevin has time to join us for that as well. We shall see, but we'll put it in motion and see if we can make it happen. But thank you all so much, Kevin. Another fun show. Always great to see you, brother, man. Please let people know what you got going on and where they can find all your stuff and Star Wars content.
Yeah, you can follow me on @KevSmets, and we also have a KOTOR movie trilogy. If you just go to www.revantrilogy.com, we have full-on machinima movies based on Knights of the Old Republic, which is near and dear to me, and we got some really fun stuff in the works that we're working on right now. So I got some talented animators. We animate in the old school style, like HD up-res KOTOR graphics, which is cool, especially if you're a nostalgia nerd like I am. And we tell some really cool stories from the canonical side of KOTOR, and some new stuff too that we kind of bring in. So you can find me there. And then obviously I have the Scoundrels Inc. show, which they did. I wasn't part of it, but they did some excellent coverage on Celebration throughout the weekend. If you go to their channel, you could see they were doing some reactions kind of like right afterwards. So so you can find me there. You can find me here. You can find me on the KOTOR channel, and I always love hearing from people. And again, just to bring it back, Smash Cancer. I am a survivor of cancer right now. I had it at a younger age than I thought. So if you have any symptoms of anything, and if you're worried about it, contact me on the side. I will answer any private message, any DM. If you feel like anything that's irregular or anything about anything, just let me know. I have so many resources I can help you out with. Get checked early. I'm testament to that. If I would have waited maybe 6 months, I'm not living to see the Filoni-verse movie, Avengers movie. So now that I did, I'm going to get to see all these movies and Rey Skywalker in action again. So, Smash Cancer. Get checked early. Absolutely. And thanks, John, for letting me have the opportunity to be on the show.
Please, it's always a pleasure, man. Love you too, brother. It's always great to have you, and I love your energy, my man. As for me, you can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, The Outlaw Nation on Twitch. Don't forget, the back half of the week is when stuff gets really ramping up on The Outlaw Nation. We got the Hot Mic tomorrow night at 4 p.m. PT. We got the Geek Buddies. We're going to be doing our own Mandalorian review, and Mike Vogel and I are going to be doing the Picard review. We got those episodes dropping for Picard for season 3. Picard is what we're going to do that. Look for that as well. We got a lot of stuff coming up on the weekend as well. A lot of content. I'll have a Renfield review. I'm going to try to drag myself to the Pope's Exorcist just for shits and giggles to see how Russell Crowe does on that. So look for all of that dropping here on the Outlaw Nation as well. You guys are awesome. We love you madly. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Have a great rest of your weekend here, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new live episode of the Jedi Way. Peace until then.